shirt. If anybody has any questions while, and I do use she, her pronouns. If at any point anybody has any questions, please stop me. This is very informal. I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have as we go along, okay? All right, we're going to go on to the next slide. The next slide is basically who we are as a program, right? So we have faculty and staff that are here to support Moorpark College students by providing those accommodations and services in the educational and college programs. Moorpark College and Access are devoted to ensuring that your navigation of higher education is accessible, okay? And so that means very different things for very different people. So for example, a student who is deaf would utilize an interpreter in various areas of the campus, but a student who may have scoliosis might require a standing desk, right? So it's very individualized and unique based on a student's own personal experience, their disability, and how institutional barriers impact that disability. Okay. Are there any questions about who we are? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'll go on to the next slide. So today we're going to go over kind of the differences between high school and college accommodations. If you did receive accommodations in high school, you may think, oh, great, whatever I had on my IEP or my 504 plan will automatically transfer over. And while that's not 100% true, there are definite similarities. So we'll kind of just go over what that is. I'll describe how you can join our program. It's just a two-step process, what services we provide, and then how to kind of self-advocate as you come to the community college setting. So some folks, when they ask me about certain accommodations, will say, well, I got this in high school, so I should get it in college. Well, so we follow two different laws. In high school, it's IDEA, some folks call it IDEA, and really it's there to ensure that you're successful and that you culminate, right? That you graduate high school. However, in the post-secondary setting or in colleges and universities, we follow ADA, right? So we follow the Americans with Disabilities Act, we follow Section 504, and then we also follow Title V, which is based on Ed Code, right? And so the rules that we have to follow are federally and state mandated. And so we have to basically ensure that what we are providing follows those guidelines. And it's really to ensure that there is equal access in the campus environment. Okay. So in high school, I'm sure you're familiar, students aren't really a part of the IEP or 504 process, unfortunately. Teachers kind of do it for you, instructors do it for you, and then counselors or case managers will work with the parents to kind of determine those accommodations. But here in college, which I love, you really are the leader of this journey, right? So you're going to be the person letting us know that you'd like accommodations. And then after we review your paperwork, we'll go over what accommodations make the most sense based on your history, based on what you're sharing with us. Okay, so you get to kind of initiate and decide with us what those accommodations should be, as long as they fall within the realm of reasonable. Okay. In high school, right, you're given kind of your class schedule. But in the community college setting, you get to decide when and where and how you get to college and how you learn. So for example, if you didn't like getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to show up to school at 7:30 and you would rather start at 10 a.m., great. You start at 10 a.m., you take those classes. If you say, Cheyenne, I learn really well in the classroom, I need to interact with the instructor, great. You do an on-ground class. Maybe you're somebody like me who's like, Cheyenne, I actually work full time. I have kiddos and I'm unable to make it to class. I actually need an online learning environment. Wonderful. We have that available too. So we actually have a plethora of different options for students, really based on their need, their life preference, and what works best for their learning. Okay. And then lastly, in high school, instruction, curriculum, all of that could be modified with accommodations, right? So for example, one of those modifications would be students will ask me about, they want self-generated notes on all of their exams. So in the high school setting, you could modify the curriculum. That was considered okay. Again, the goal was just so that you could be successful on those tests. But in the community college setting, notes on exams is something that we have to evaluate whether or not that will directly impact the course learning outcomes, right? So if you're looking at your notes, are those notes providing you with answers to the test? If it does, then you're not actually being assessed on your learning. And if the course outcome and the goal is for you to be assessed on your learning, you can't fundamentally alter what that course outcome is. So again, these are things we'll talk about in an intake, but I just want you to be aware that within the community college setting, we go through an interactive process to determine appropriate accommodations, but they must be reasonable and they cannot modify course objectives. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because that's one of the biggest things that students sometimes have confusion on. And so I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that explanation. Okay, I don't see any hands. I'm not hearing any feedback. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep moving, okay? Here's some examples of college accommodations. Now, again, this is not everybody gets assigned these. This is based on your disability and based on institutional barriers. So let me see. I thought I saw something in the chat. Here we go. Colin asked if tutoring was available. Yes. So in the community college setting, we have tutoring at our teaching and learning center available all the time. So they're open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and on Fridays, I believe they're open 8 to 12. There's in-person tutoring as well as online tutoring. So the Access Department provides academic coaches, and that's in the subjects of English and math. And really, it's so that we have more specialized and individualized support for students. So, for example, if a student is taking a geometry course, and they're like, Cheyenne, I went and had tutoring, but it's so loud in the tutoring center. I just need to work with somebody in the access center. We would let you know the days our access coaches or academic coaches are available, and they kind of coach you through those math problems. They're not tutors because we don't duplicate services, but they are coaches who are familiar with math to kind of guide you in the right direction and to provide that distraction reduced environment and more individualized support. So I hope that answers your question, Colin. If not, please ask me again. So in the classroom, these are some of the most popular accommodations: permission to record lectures, peer note takers, alternate media, and preferential seating. And also potentially to be able to take breaks. For example, some folks just need a brain break, right? Especially folks with anxiety. If some folks have ADHD, they'll say, hey, Cheyenne, like I cannot focus for 2.5 hours. I need to be able to get up after 30 minutes, walk around and do it again. I'm like, great, no problem. Let's approve you for some breaks. Okay. Testing accommodations would be extended testing time. That's probably our most popular accommodation. Because time often is a limitation within an assessment, we will provide additional extended testing time. That could be time and a half. So if you have an hour-long test, you get an hour and a half. We have double time. So if it's an hour, you'd get 2. And usually that's about where it stops. There are some students I've worked with. For example, I worked with somebody who was deaf and hard of hearing, deaf and blind. And so she ended up getting triple time as well as having tests broken up into 2 days, right? And that makes sense, right? Because we'd take tests from English to Braille. She'd read Braille. I'd interpret it into ASL. I'm also an ASL interpreter. This was back when I had a different position. I'd interpret it into ASL. She'd feed it back to me in ASL, and then I would write it in English. So you can imagine there's multiple steps that go through that process. And so a 10 question, math test or 20 question math test would take between 4 to 6 hours. So requiring a student to sit for 6 hours is an undue burden. So we would break it up into 2 days. Does that make sense? Hopefully there's nods behind the screen. I'm going to pretend there are. So if you notice, the second bullet point under testing says distraction reduced environment, which means to be able to take your test in our access center. That's because instructors only have a certain period of time where they're allowed in their classroom because they move to a different classroom. So if you do have accommodated testing with us, you most likely will take your test in our testing center. Okay. We also have Kurzweil, which is an exam reader. It's just to take from text to speech in case folks, for example, have a hard time reading or a hard time tracking written text, they can listen to it at the same time. And we have enlarged print, 4-function calculators, and spell checkers. Okay. Are there any questions on these accommodations? No? Okay. Okay, so some additional supports, which actually this is what Colin was talking about. We do have math and English coaching. We do have our DSPS counselors. And so when folks see counselors like, oh, is that mental health? No, that's not mental health. So we have accommodations and academic counselors. And so if you want an ed plan or anything academic counseling related, that's what our counselors do. And then they have the additional training to be able to support you in reviewing your accommodations with you, having conversations with your instructors if for some reason your accommodations aren't being utilized appropriately or not being given appropriately, they can support you in that. We also have learning skills classes. We teach a math skills class that's 2 levels, A and B. We have a writing skills class. Actually, I need to fix this. It's LSMO2. The L is now embedded in the 2, so I have to remove it. And then we also teach LSMO3. That's a personal development and study strategies course. I highly recommend it for many students, especially if you're coming from the high school setting or you're coming back to college after a while and you're like, Cheyenne, I'm not sure how to study. I don't remember how to make sure that I spend enough time or what I focus on. Like this really will support you in ensuring that you feel successful in the college setting. I highly, highly encourage it. If not our LSMO3, there's also counseling classes that kind of do similar things. Basically help you get reintegrated into a community college setting so you feel confident as you start here. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, applying to Access as is shown on the screen requires 2 things, 1 and 2. The first thing is an application for services. We just need to know that you want to apply, and you're going to fill out basically a screening that says, hey, here's where I like have challenges and here's like what I could need, get extra support on, please. And then the second step is to submit a verification of disability. I imagine if you're already working with DOR, you have that verification of disability. So whatever you sent to DOR, please send it over to us at mcaccess@vcccd, there's 3 C's there, .edu, and then we'll be able to evaluate your eligibility for the program. Okay. So at the bottom of the screen, it does describe types of verifications of disability, which could be an IEP or 504, or also if you're working with some other medical professional that is able to sign a document, talking about your disability. Okay. Are there any questions about the process? No? Okay, great. So this is one of my last slides here. I just want to reiterate to you that really this is your journey, and I want you to know that whatever timeline this takes you, however many services you're using, like everything that we have here is available to you, and we want to make sure that you feel supported and successful in your journey. Okay, so one of the things that I highly recommend is making sure that you self-advocate, right? So if there's something, I don't want you to get into week 13 of an 18-week semester and say, oh, Cheyenne, nobody is providing me peer notes. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me week 1? Right. And so I want to make sure that if ever there's something amiss or something that you have questions on, please make sure you let us know because we don't know until you tell us. Okay. So always know that we're here to listen and we're here as a support system for you. Make sure you check in with a counselor every semester at a minimum. You want to make sure that you're not taking classes you don't need. You want to make sure they might be able to tell you, oh, did you know you're 1 class away from getting a 2nd degree? They're there with that knowledge and available to you at any point. So please make sure you utilize them. Also, we have various other departments and services on campus, financial aid, EOPS, first year experience, ASMC. So various student services on campus that we would love to connect you with. Please tell us what you might be interested in. And as we listen to what you're sharing with us, we might make recommendations of what you could be a part of, because ultimately you're here for this experience and you deserve to have every opportunity to succeed. And these various departments are here to support you in that as well. Okay. And then last but not least, don't ever be afraid to ask questions. There's no silly questions. All questions are valid and wonderful. You don't learn unless you ask, right? If you don't know, if you ask, that's how we learn, right? So you can either ask us, you can get a hold of your professor during their office hours, or before or after class. Please, please, please continue to ask those questions so that you have all the information you need for your academic journey. Okay. All right, and this is my last slide for today. So I really appreciate you joining. I really wanted to just leave the floor open for any questions you might have. I will go ahead and put our contact information in the chat too, so you don't have to take a picture of this. And if there's anything that you need from us, please feel free to reach out and ask. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and put that information in the chat. Does anybody have any questions that I could answer for you?
I'll start, Cheyenne. I have one. Can you talk a little bit about the priority registration and the importance of checking in and when to check in for each
Yes,
semester?
absolutely. So priority registration happens early. So for example, priority registration for spring, right? We're coming up to fall, for spring is October 28th. When students are registered with our program, you automatically get priority registration. We will send you emails that say, hey, do your pre-reg check-in with us. What that basically means is we want to look at, do you have over a 2.0? Is your registration date correct? Do you have what you need? And so when you do that pre-registration check-in, which is during a 15-minute drop-in appointment, it's very quick and easy. We just check, yep, you have priority registration, your units are good, you're good to go. And then you're able to select classes the first week before anybody else. And the importance of that is classes fill up, right? We're 2 weeks away from the fall semester. Most of the classes are full. All of the classes with great instructors are full. And while instructors are wonderful, the ones who are more supportive of students, more flexible, more accommodating, are usually full at this point. So if you have priority registration and you would, as part of our program, please, please, please make sure that you're taking advantage of that. So when you see those emails from us saying, hey, Danger Will Robinson, priority registration is coming up. Make sure you pay attention to that because we want you to have the best opportunity to pick the classes when you need them, how you need them, and with the instructors that will be the most supportive of you. Are there any other questions?
I can ask one more. It has
Mhm.
to do with the Promise Grant, and I
Yes,
understand from Kim at Financial Aid that students that have the Promise Grant that are with access may not need to take 12 units to still qualify for the Promise Grant. Can you tell us a little bit about what they would need to do to get that in place?
absolutely, 100%. So any student that's registered with our program would qualify as a full-time student with less units than 12, because full-time means 12 units if you are not familiar with that lingo, as long as they could make that determination during the interactive process with a counselor. So for example, I was working with a student who was telling me that he feels the most successful when he takes 2 classes at a time. That would be 6 units. Sorry, this is ASL for six, so 6 units. And he's like, if I take more than 2 classes, then I start failing my classes. And our goal here is to ensure that you have equitable access to succeed. So we said, great, no problem, student. I will write you a letter, the Access Department, any faculty can. We write a letter that says, please consider John, John Doe, a full-time student at 6 units. You then take that letter and you go give it to financial aid. So what you first have to do is fill out a FAFSA. You're required to do a FAFSA. I think you might be with DOR too. I don't remember, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, Janet.
Yes,
And
you
then
do.
you do, right? Okay, so you already filled out FAFSA, beautiful. And then, right, and then if you feel like you will not do as well taking 4 classes, but you feel like you'll be the most successful with 2 classes, which would be that 6 units, you would just ask the counselor that you meet with to write you a letter of a reduced unit course load, and then you would provide that to financial aid, and you could get 2 years of community college for free with the Moorpark College Promise.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I put our email as well as our front desk phone number in the chat for everybody in case you need it. Did we have any other questions?
Is it too late for students to sign up for the semester
No,
access?
no, please sign up now. Send us info. Just like I said, that two-step process is fill out an application for services, and then submit your verification of disability, which obviously whatever you submitted to DOR, I'm sure is great. Um, and let's get you in for an intake so that we can start getting that process. If you want to take classes and I want you to have accommodations, but if for some reason we are booked with our counseling appointments, we have general counseling on the campus. Genevieve, I see your question. I'll get to you in 1 second. Then you can do academic counseling in the general academic counseling, get that done. And then we'll make sure that you get an intake because you shouldn't have any exams the first or second week. But don't wait. I want to make sure that you get the support that you need. So if you have any questions about that process, please feel free to call us. Please sign up whenever you can. We're more than happy to help you. We're going to have a lot of intakes opening up, especially the week of August 12th. It's going to be opening up soon. So I should have 25 to 30 intake appointments available that week. I just looked at it. So I've got tons of availability if folks are interested in signing up. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Genevieve, go ahead.
Actually, this is Genevieve's mother. I'm attending with her, and
Oh,
I just
hi.
have a quick question. Hi, my name is Dina,
Hi,
um,
Dina.
Dina Bonest. And what I wanted to know is we found out about the Department of Rehabilitation and all of these services. kind of late, but we've already, we're starting the application process and all of that. But we went ahead and enrolled her in classes because we were worried that she wouldn't get in. So is that backwards or is that okay? How do we link her to the program now that she's enrolled?
No, you're great. That's totally fine. And some folks do that because they don't want to lose out on classes. Great. No, she's registered for classes. She's good to go. You just have to register for our program. And then the moment that we determine accommodations, those accommodations will be requested by Genevieve. She has to fill out a form every semester for every instructor that says, hey, I would like accommodations for my English MO1A class and my film class. Because some students are like, well, I don't need accommodations for my walking class, and other students need accommodations for the walking class. So you're not behind, you're not backwards, you're doing it in exactly the right path you needed to do it in. Just like I said, submit that verification of disability, submit an application, and let's get you in for an intake, and then accommodations will start as soon as we determine them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, you're so welcome. I look forward to working with you all.
Right. Anybody else have any questions for Cheyenne? We work really well with Access, so please feel free to communicate with both of us so we can make things work best for you at Moorpark College.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time, everybody. You're in a great space. I love that you're already working with DOR. I tell every single student who registers with us that they need to register with DOR. So this is a really exciting opportunity to kind of get the opposite of that now, where folks are already registered with you and then want to come to us. I'm really excited. We want to support you as much as we can. So please, please, please keep in contact. If you would like my personal email, I'm going to put it in the chat here. Maybe you want a friendly face to chat with. That's my email address. So please feel free to get a hold of me if that's something that you're needing. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is our last one for the summer, and we'll be starting our info series back up in the fall, and we'll send it out to you again. And a lot of times it's going to be in the classrooms too. You'll be able to access it that way. And they're always recorded, so we can send them out. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great summer.
Bye. Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you
Bye,
so
Shan.
much
Thank
for
you.
having this. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.